decisions, which for me are low on the list of the issues I have with the way he coached the second half of that game yesterday. But we all know what he did. He eschewed 2 field goal attempts to go for it on 4th and shorts, and both times didn't get it. Well, did he make the right or wrong decisions, Jeff?
I think they were the wrong decisions. And I will say this, and listen, that the analytics, whatever it is, it's 50-50, it's all these things. I agree with Booger on the situation that you're in at the moment. Momentum is real. Listen, I'm a player who was down 21-3 in AFC Championship game that I won. I coached a team that we were up 30 or whatever it was, and we lost. Momentum is real, and at some point, you want to stop the bleeding, for lack of a better term. Find a way to put some points up, flip the pressure back to San Francisco and make them make plays. Is it statistical, whatever, all the arguments, all that. But to Booger's point, there are moments in games where you know. And let me just say this, just because this infuriates me. When everybody's like, oh, it's execution. Every football play is execution. Every coach can show you every play how this play should have been successful. So if you tell me that the play wasn't set because they didn't execute, that's every play. And the chance of you executing perfectly every time is non-existent. So every play is execution. So if they'd have done it right, they would have, of course, that's every play.
You and Booger and Greeny don't get to use analytics as a buzzword. It was like 50-50. You try to
say analytics.
Yeah, well, it started with Booger saying that. The fact of the matter is, what I don't understand is how could a bunch of football players and football people and football fans ask for less football? We're in a situation where the choice is we can play football here, 50% chance, or 50% chance, let's go play soccer. I choose to play football. Why are we kicking field goals when there's a 50? If it's
because that's how we win, because we go up 3 scores.
No, you also win by executing at a football play.
Ask Tom Brady about Adam Vinatieri kicking field goal playing soccer. You win championships.
Okay, when you have to, you do it. But you said all plays are about execution, as if field goals are not also about execution. You can miss that too. So let's assume that you missed the field goal and assume that you missed the 4th down. I'd rather go out trying to win the game by playing football.
Because the benefit of hitting that 4th down is more significant than the benefit of getting 3 points. Because you get to
turn it over the next play.
Get to run more time. Well, of course not.
Yeah.
If you turn it over the next play.
Well, if your field goal gets blocked, what are we doing?
But there's still a probability that you have a higher likelihood of hitting the field goal than you do hitting the 4th down. If it is 50-50, on top of that, it leads to points. And there's also the element of your actual players. I'm okay with the first gamble on the 4th down because that is the way the Lions are played. That's why the players react to Dan Campbell that way. But the second one, for me, I felt like they should have kicked because as a head coach, you have to understand the situation and the scenario. And I have been on sidelines where you go in those drives, and now you have 2 drives and you walk away with no points. There is an effect that happens to your belief and your mindset.
With 2 minutes left, you had the same
though.
position if you had 7 minutes left in the game. You could have done the same thing.
It's funny you say that because I actually liked the second one better than the first one. I thought the first time he went for it on 4th down, they were in a position, right, where they were up by 2 touchdowns, and it was only the second possession of the second half, and they were already halfway through the 3rd quarter.
Right.
So at that point, if you're feeling the game, you're thinking there aren't a lot of possessions left.
And it was a
if we
shorter
go up
kick.
3,
And it was a shorter kick, and it would have made it a 17-point
45 yards. It's not nothing. By the way, that
but it was
kicker
shorter than
for
the
his
other one would
career
have been.
is 62.5% on 40-plus field goals outdoors.
Okay.
A field goal's not a sure thing.
But I need to bring something else up.
Take the points.
Because everyone has made this about the 4th down decisions. There were 2 other things that need to be said. The first of them is obvious. The decision to run the ball on 3rd down with 1:05 left is inexcusable, literally inexcusable. If Mike McCarthy did this, we would have had him arrested. Forget about fired. We would have literally sent the police to the stadium to arrest him. This is coaching malpractice. It's as bad a decision as you can make in a football game. But I don't even want to focus on that. Okay? Because this is too obvious.
It seems like
No one who has ever watched a football game understands what he was doing.
Because it cost him a timeout.
It cost him a timeout, and thus meant
which he ended up needing.
The most valuable thing you have when you're down 2 possessions is 3 timeouts.
That's right.
Once you call one of them, you might as well have none of them left.
right.
But let's even put that to the side. In the first half of this game, which the Lions dominated, they ran the ball 21 times for 148 yards.
Yeah.
They have a 17-point lead. In the second half, they ran the ball 7 times.
Yep.
What the actual
Let it go. Let it fly.
Doing? You've got the game. You're dumb. Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery are destroying them in this game. We're showing the one play where he fumbles. They ran the ball ridiculously effective. In the first half, they ran the ball 21 times and threw it 20.
Yep.
In the second half, they threw the ball 21 times and ran it 7 with the lead practically the whole time.
So this is why being a coach sucks. Because if he comes out there and runs the ball a bunch and they don't have success, they come back and lose, you're going to say that you got this way by being aggressive. They miss on those fourth downs, you got this way by being aggressive. Don't shrivel up in the big moment.
What do you mean shrivel up, Dominique? They were dominating the game on the ground.
Explaining to you
So
what
listen to me.
situation
So
is.
that's a great point you made. So this is what I would say. So Dan Campbell's aggressiveness during the season won them games. So how does it not cost you games when you aren't successful at it? And so when people say, is it his fault? Yeah, it's his fault. Because if you're going to give him the credit for doing it in the season, give him the blame in the postseason. Because to his point, by the way, you went freaking gun no backs on one of the fourth down where it's all about execution. What BS is that, bro? If you're a dominant football team, that is not when you do those things. Both passes, one drive, it's a joke.
All we talk about is how great their offensive line is. Penei Sewell. They're lining him up at tight end. He's running in motion in the first half. Where was that in the second half?
There are absolutely ebbs and flows of a game, and there is being unnecessarily risky. And it does play into the fourth down scenario. It does play into two-point conversion versus the Cowboys. You are taking risks all the time, and that is a game-changing quality. But there's points in the game you have to manage it.
That's right.
And that is the same conversation we have about quarterbacks for head coaches, and that was the issue for the Detroit Lions.
In the Cowboy game, it was all upside, no downside, right? They weren't going to have a worse seed in the playoffs if they lost that game, but it could have been better if they won it. So that made sense in terms of that particular game. Obviously not the case here. The downside is your season ends, and so these decisions get scrutinized a lot more. But look, I mean, you coached.
Yeah.
Like, is there not someone in your ear telling you, like, we've worked all this out in this situation on this yard line at this time of game with this many yards to go? We go for it. We don't care.
But
We did actually.
So either way,
we
but
came in
the guy
and
in
crushed
the ear
you.
does
That's
tell
true.
you that, and you got to do what you got to do.
We
But
did.
that's the
We
fourth
hammered
down
them.
decisions. Those are different to me. This isn't about that.
all right,
Why did they go away from what was working?
Hold on, we're talking about managing the game.
Yeah.
In managing the game, you have to take into account all the variables.
Yes.
And I think one of the variables that Dan Campbell had in his mind before he showed up was our defense is not very good. We're good at the run, but we give up a lot of points. We are up by 14 points right now going into the second half. That's not going to be enough. And it wasn't. And I think he played the second half in a way where he's thinking, we got to score more points. We got to score more touchdowns. And that is a way to manage the game. Because it didn't work, we're looking back at it and saying that it is not.
Dominique, what are you talking about?
Slow the game down.
They ran for 3 touchdowns in the first half.
Agreed. I understand.
Why would you
I'm not
stop?
arguing that he should have stopped running the ball. I'm saying that his mindset in the second half was be aggressive. I didn't like them throwing flea flickers after they ran for 8 yards.
Right.
I didn't like them doing that thing. I didn't like them taking it out of hands, but they handed Jahmyr Gibbs and he fumbles. I'm saying that this game was decided by a pass off the face mask and a Jahmyr Gibbs fumble. And we're talking about all of Dan Campbell's decisions as if those were the real impacts. The real impacts was that fluke play off of the face mask and Jahmyr Gibbs fumbling.
Which happened there's all kinds of plays that happen like that.
And
in
if
games.
Gibbs doesn't fumble, maybe they run the ball 20 times in the second half. I mean, they were just getting going in the second half. It was only the second time they had the ball.
The issue is if you're going to give them credit for it, you got to give them blame for it as well. You have to blame. If it doesn't work out, then own the blame.
That's
If you're gonna
If
give them-
we're blaming the Ravens'
That's
game
not.
plan
That's
for their
absurd.
loss, how can we not blame them?
He's aggressive. There's an upside and a downside
That's the
to it.
definition of results over process.
Yes.
If you are saying that the process that you prefer is an aggressive one, then when the process that you prefer fails, you have to accept that sometimes it fails.
I don't understand what you're saying. Were the Lions as good a running team all year long as
That's the
any in
point.
the NFL?
Absolutely.
So why would you stop doing
No,
it
I'm
in
not
the most
saying
important
stop
part of
doing
the
that.
game?
We're talking about general, like we're trying to group the fourth down decisions along with
No, I'm
the
separating
others.
those two
Yeah,
things
yeah.
as best I can.
Okay, separate them. Run the ball more. I'm not going to disagree with you there. That's there's
that's
no argument
coaching.
there.
That was
we
the
don't have a
coach.
discussion.
That was the
ask you this.
unnecessary aggression, was throwing the football that much in the second
But
half
what-
when you have a 14-point
So let me
lead.
ask you this. From a player's perspective, are you telling me that a 3-possession game doesn't feel different to you than a 2-possession? So if you take an easy field goal or a makeable field goal and you're up 3, you're telling me in your head as a player, you don't feel completely different? Because you and I both know that's not fact.
Jeff, I'm 100% with you. They missed it. I wish they would have kicked it.
Yeah.
If they get the first down, then we're all saying this is a much better decision.
I'm still saying
it's
they should
a
have
much
kicked it.
better. So okay,
I
you're
think
telling
Andy
me
Reid
that
should have
you
kicked
rather
the field
be
goal
up,
in the
would you
second
rather
quarter
be-
against them. I thought it was a dumb play
Would
by
you rather
him.
be up 17 or 21? That's like you're asking me obvious questions and I'm asking you obvious questions, but somehow my obvious question, you're like, no, that doesn't make sense.